A mother's unimaginable act. Glen Rose, Texas is the kind of quiet town where people know their neighbors and life feels safe. But one fateful day, the peaceful facade was shattered. Neighbors of Tosha Chantal Hatcher began noticing strange behavior. Tosha, a single mother to a 2-year-old girl named Navaya, was blasting loud music and pacing nervously around her yard. Something about her demeanor felt off. Concerned, the neighbors called the police. When officers arrived, they entered a home that seemed ordinary, but the air felt heavy, suffocating. As they moved through the house, they were led to the kitchen by Tosha, who appeared eerily calm. What they found next would haunt them forever. Inside the oven was Navaya, her tiny body curled up in the heat. The oven had been turned on. Miraculously, the child was still alive but had suffered horrific second and third-degree burns. Tasha admitted, without hesitation, to placing her own daughter in the oven. Neighbors who had once seen her as a loving and playful mother couldn't fathom how she could do something so monstrous. Tafea was rushed to the hospital, where doctors fought to save her, and she was later placed into foster care. Meanwhile, Tosha now sits in a jail cell, awaiting trial, her bond set at $300,000. Even now, her motive remains a mystery. Was it madness, malice, or something darker? The ghost of Foss Lake. Oklahoma's Foss Lake is serene, its calm waters reflecting the endless sky above. Beneath that still surface, secrets were waiting to be discovered. In 1969, 3 people vanished while driving a 1950s Chevy, their destination unknown. A year later, 3 teenagers in a 1969 Camaro disappeared on their way to a football game. Despite extensive searches, neither group was ever found. For decades, families mourned without closure, their loved ones fading into folklore. That was until police divers training at Foss Lake made a grisly discovery. Their dive began like any other, a routine exercise. But as they scanned the lake bed, their sonar picked up something unusual. Curious, they swam closer and found not one but 2 vehicles submerged in the murky depths. Inside the Camaro were the skeletal remains of Jimmy Williams and his friends, who had vanished in 1970. The second vehicle, the 1950 Chevy, contained 3 more bodies. 69-year-old John Alva Porter and his companions, Nora Duncan and Clem Burnhammock. The water had preserved the cars eerily well, the rusty metal cocooning its grim cargo. The discovery left investigators with more questions than answers. How had 2 groups disappeared so close together in such similar circumstances within a year? Was it a tragic coincidence, or was something sinister at play? Though the lake finally gave up its dead, its secrets remained hidden in the silt. The bags on the train. In December 2015, Russian officers stumbled upon a railway shipment that would forever change their perception of smuggling. The unmarked sacks didn't seem unusual at first. Simple bags filled with sawdust. But as they opened the first one, a sickening realization set in. Hidden beneath the sawdust were severed bear parts, paws, muzzles, gallbladders, and musk deer glands. In total, officers found over 500 bare feet, along with other grotesque remains. These body parts were destined for Asia, where they would be sold on the black market for use in traditional medicine. The sacks reeked of death and desperation, a chilling testament to the poaching epidemic that has pushed countless species to the brink of extinction. For the officers, this wasn't just a case of smuggling, it was a massacre. Even now, as they reflect on that day, the image of those severed parts haunts them. It's a grim reminder of humanity's capacity for cruelty, hidden in plain sight. Decorations of death. Halloween in Slingerland's New York is a time for costumes and candy where children's laughter fills the air. But in 2015, the festivities took a dark turn. Police were patrolling a wealthy neighborhood when they received a call from a resident. She claimed to have spotted 2 decorations hanging from her tree, decorations she hadn't put there. Curious, the officers arrived in costumes and candy where children's laughter fills the air. But in 2015, the festivities took a dark turn. Police were patrolling a wealthy neighborhood when they received a call from a resident. She claimed to have spotted 2 decorations hanging from her tree, decorations she hadn't put there. Curious, the officers arrived and shone their flashlights on the figures. From a distance, they looked like lifelike props, bodies, weathered and decayed, swaying in the breeze. But as they approached, the truth became horrifyingly clear. The decorations weren't props. They were real bodies, decomposed beyond recognition. The woman recalled seeing 2 men lurking outside her home earlier, but couldn't provide much detail. To this day, no one knows who the bodies belonged to, why they were hung in her tree, or if the 2 men were responsible. What's most chilling is the randomness of it all, a suburban nightmare brought to life in the most horrifying way imaginable. The vent of death. When officers were called to an elderly woman's home to investigate a strange smell, they expected a routine case. maybe a dead raccoon, or perhaps a squirrel trapped in the air vent. But what they found was far worse. The woman, recently returned from vacation, had noticed the vent in her living room sagging unnaturally. When the officers removed the cover, a foul stench hit them like a physical blow. Shining their flashlight inside, they saw it, a man's body crammed into the narrow duct. He was bald, in his 40s, wearing a black hoodie and jeans. Clutched tightly in his hand was a knife. The man had likely crawled through the air vent from outside, intending to break in. But the narrow ducts became his tomb. Trapped in the summer heat, he had died a slow, agonizing death. Even now, the woman refuses to sit in her living room, haunted by the memory of what once hid above her, the bunker. In September 2015, Swedish police unraveled a case so disturbing it defies comprehension. A 38-year-old doctor, described by friends as polite and helpful, had a dark secret. He had built an underground bunker, complete with a bathroom, a courtyard, and chains on the walls. Its purpose? To imprison his victims. His first known victim was a woman he drugged with rohypnol-laced strawberries. After raping her, he transported her to the bunker, where she endured days of unspeakable abuse. But the doctor made a critical mistake. When he brought her back to her home to retrieve belongings, he found the police waiting for him. Terrified, he turned himself in, but his house held more horrors than anyone could imagine. Rubber masks, syringes, birth control pills, condoms, and wheelchairs filled the bunker. Investigators believe the doctor had planned this for years, intending to keep victims captive indefinitely. Though he is now behind bars, the memory of his meticulously planned nightmare still lingers in the minds of those who uncovered it. Bonus: the tea party at the bottom of the lake. Sometimes what seems terrifying turns out to be a macabre joke. A snorkeler once reported finding human remains at the bottom of a lake. When police divers investigated, they discovered two figures seated in plastic chairs, holding teacups, with a sign that read, "Bernie, live in the dream." The bodies were fake, placed there as a prank by scuba divers. But for the snorkeler and the officers who first responded, it was a moment of sheer horror before the truth came to light. These stories remind us that the world is full of shadows. Sometimes those shadows hide the unimaginable. Don't forget to like and subscribe us for more videos like this.